Welcome to episode number 4 of A Touch of Gray. Today, the Gray Devils welcome Reid Maxmin. Reid was a member of the Duke lacrosse team from 2012 to 2016. As a walk-on, Reid adjusted his position to where the team needed him most and saw time as both an offensive and defensive midfielder over his 5 years. Reid is among the rare few Duke lacrosse alumni that can boast not only reaching the Final Four 2 times, but also possessing 2 rings from back-to-back championships in 2013 and 2014. Reid currently lives in New York City, where he works as a vice president of Citigroup as part of the agency securities lending team. Reid, welcome. We're going to jump right into the interview. Sound good?
Sounds perfect, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, so first question, why Duke? Why did you choose Duke University?
So my journey to Duke was a little bit different than some of my other classmates. So I grew up, Duke was my dream school. For those of you who know Chris Maxmin and Gina, they both absolutely bleed Duke blue. So for me, living in that household, it would have been a dream come true to make that place my home one day. I mean, there's pictures of me out there. I'm 6 weeks old, and there's a bib on me that says I'm a dribbler from Duke. So from the get-go, I was rooting for Duke basketball. And the second I picked up a lacrosse stick, it was my dream to potentially one day play lacrosse there. Now, as I was going throughout high school, it was looking like, my chances of getting in were going to be through the academic way. And, I always thought, well, if lacrosse works out, that's an added bonus. But it was always my dream to go here. So fortunately, things worked out, and I was able to join in the fall of 2012 as a walk-on. And it's been truly, it was a magical experience. It's probably the best way that I can describe it. But in terms of why I chose Duke, I think there's the obvious choices for why someone would want to go to Duke. Obviously, it's a great academic institution, it has great sports. Duke basketball is fantastic. The campus is beautiful, but for me, I didn't really realize how much I really wanted to go there. I thought I really wanted to go there, but I didn't really realize how in love with it I was until I really visited campus. There's something in the atmosphere that's just truly magnetic, and it was really special. So it was in that moment that I kind of realized that this is the place I want to be. This is the place I want to spend my 4 years, or in my case, a 5th year with attending Fuqua and the agent. Attending Fuqua as a part of the Masters of Management program.
Great. What was the most memorable highlight of your time playing lacrosse at Duke, Reid?
Well, I think the obvious answers would be the 2013, the 2014 national championships. I mean, those were certainly the singular highlights. I mean, I remember in 2013 when we were rushing the field, I'm pretty confident I blacked out because I don't really remember much about running. The one thing, the nearest thing I can remember is I think I forgot to breathe for about a minute because I remember just not being able to get any oxygen into my body, just jumping up and down and tackling whoever I was. It was just so chaotic, and it was the first time in my life, and probably the only time, where I was truly overwhelmed with excitement. Actually, I remember in 2014, as it was looking like we were going to win against Notre Dame, I remember consciously saying to myself, soak it in a little bit this time. Don't black out. Remember to breathe. So I remember, at least with 2014, I really felt like I was able to soak in everything. But in terms of what I see as the highlights of my time at Duke, the national championships, obviously they're a once in a lifetime kind of opportunity. But I think it pales in comparison to the relationships you develop, to the experiences you have. For me, it was, as I said before, I was a walk-on. It was so special to me to have this group of guys open up to me with open arms. And for that, I'm forever grateful for that. And I'd say that the other memorable moment was when I actually found out that I was on the team, because I knew that was going to be the start of such a special journey. With little did I know there'd be 2 national championships along the way, but really it's the people and the memories I made along the way that really made it something that I've continuously looked back on, to the point where my girlfriend loves to remind me of how washed up I am.
All right, next question. What's the greatest lesson learned and carried forward from your time at Duke?
Not to be too cheesy, but at Duke and specifically on the team, you learn how to fail. And, on the surface, it kind of sounds easy, but failing and learning everything from your failures and getting back up on that horse and never giving up. I mean, it's something that in practice seems so simple, but really you don't really know what it's like until you're in a situation like when you're on campus or when you're on the lacrosse field. And it's something that I'll always be very, very grateful to Coach Danowski and Caputo for taking a chance on me to have that sort of experience, because learning how to fail and whatnot, I mean, what I learned on that lacrosse field, you can't learn it in a classroom. And it's something to this day that, I actually had one of my current boss, actually, when he hired me a few months ago, he said that part of the reason why we hired you was we could tell that you had this athletic mindset, this ability to adapt to changing situations and just finding out a way to figure it out, figuring out a way to succeed, figuring out a way to win. And that's something that you don't learn that in a classroom. You learn that on the field. And for me, that's probably been the most valuable takeaway I have for my entire college experience.
Yeah, great. What about the years after graduating from Duke? What did they hold for you, and how have you applied your Duke experience to life after Duke?
So after I graduated from undergrad in 2016, I returned to get my master's in management studies from Fuqua. I was not on the team during that year, but it was a great opportunity for me to, stick around campus one more year, really focus in on what I wanted to do afterwards. And I was actually, while I was there, I got an opportunity to work at Citigroup, where I started in July of 2017. I started in the rotational program as an analyst, where I spent my first year on the global markets relationship management team. My second year, I was on the multi-product fixed income sales team. And then in 2019, I joined the relationship management team full time until very recently. In January of 2023, I recently joined the agency securities lending team as a product manager there. And I've been there for the past few months now, trying my best to get up to speed as quickly as possible. But it's been a very welcome change. And, it's, for me at least, I mean, as I was saying before, I mean, the lessons I learned on the lacrosse field, it's stuff I prepare for every day. And it's been truly, you never really truly leave the Duke experience in that way, because it follows you. And the lessons you've learned, they carry with you forever. So I've been very, very grateful for my time that I spent there.
Let's talk about your teammates. So Duke lacrosse teammates and also your alumni lacrosse connections. Why are those important to you, and how do you maintain those bonds?
Well, it certainly helps that most of them are in New York City, or at least a good chunk of them. So getting a reunion together is never particularly difficult. But at the end of the day, I've always been a big believer that it's the people that make the experiences. And, without maintaining those close relationships, it's almost like you kind of lose touch with where you came from a bit. So for me, it's been very, very important to me to stay in touch with those people. I still consider many of them to be some of my closest friends on the planet. And it's not only just from a memories and a friendship standpoint, but again, you're talking about a group of guys who were very, very motivated. They were all leaders in their own respect. And having relationships like that in your life, it not only motivates you to be the best version of yourself in your daily life, but also if there's ever professional opportunities, you have a bunch of guys around you who are driven and motivated, ambitious, and, you never really know where the next opportunity is going to come from. And having relationships with people like that, it's invaluable.
Story time. What's the story that for you that never grows old, and when you and your teammates get together to reunite, it just gets told over and over again?
Well, there's several stories from off the field that I'm not sure that I could share for this audience, but I'd have to say that the one story that I guess is more personal that seems to be told over and over and over again, much to my chagrin, was shortly after the 2015 season. Me and one of my teammates decided to take a team bonding trip to the Bahamas, and the night ended with him actually contributing to an addition to my previous championship tattoo. So thank you, Ben Sharf, for becoming a tattoo artist for the night. It's still very much present, and I see it every day. So thank you for giving me a lifelong memory that I get reminded of every single day that I'm awake.
And is that something you can show us or not? That's probably something just to.
It is on my inner thigh. I don't know if people want to see my inner thigh right now, but it's
Yeah,
there's a video. There's a video of it that I'm sure Ben Sharf has. Actually, I'm pretty confident Ben Sharf has shared that video with several members of the team. So,
all right,
Ben.
we'll ask Ben for proof of life. You know, he can send us your whole thigh if he needs to.
Oh, exactly.
What support and advice do you have to offer members of the Duke Gray Devils lacrosse network, whether they're just coming out of Duke and starting work, or they're enjoying the privileges of retirement?
I would say that, first of all, as I sort of mentioned before, the Duke lacrosse experience doesn't end when you graduate. One of the most special things about the experience is the people you meet, the relationships you develop, the memories you have on and off the field. But it also means that there is a humongous support network that is here for you. That, I think there's a lot of pressure on kids as they graduate to know exactly what they want to do when they're only 2 years into school. The reality is that there's a lot of guys who went through exactly what they're going through. They're former athletes trying to figure out what to do. Their whole life was lacrosse for such a long time. Well, you have hundreds of people who went through that exact same process, who figured it out, who might be able to offer you advice on, what it is that you're looking to do. Or even better, they might be looking to hire, and they might be looking to give a shot to the kid who, threw everything he had at a ground ball every single time he was on the field. He might want to take that kid over the guy who had a 4.0 in all of his calculus and biophysics classes. So I would say that, number one, you're not alone. Number two, there is a humongous support network that is here for you. And number three, while it's still, nothing ever really quite compares to what it's like at Duke, I promise you, your time after Duke is absolutely incredible. Danowski always says your best days are not, your best days are always ahead. And I can promise you your best days are ahead. Don't be depressed for too long. It's the ride continues.
Yeah, that's great. So let's talk about Danowski and the current team. The Blue Devils are Final Four bound once again, onto the semifinals against Penn State this coming weekend. What are you enjoying most about the 2023 team, and what was most special for you in being a part of two Memorial Day weekend championship teams?
I think the depth of this team is really incredible. I mean, if we're looking at individuals, seeing how Brendan O'Neill has just come alive this season and just been such a force to be reckoned with. It's been really, really cool to watch. And I think what I like most about this team is I remember last year thinking about, how much depth they had and how much potential they had. And while, maybe on paper or, in the win losses column, it might not have seemed that way. This year, it just feels like it's a long time coming. And to see them bounce back from, the disappointing result at the end of last season has really been, as an alumni, it's made me incredibly proud. I know that unfortunately, I'll be in California this weekend, but I'll be waking up at 9 a.m. screaming the entire time, rooting those guys on as they face off against Penn State. I really, there's something special about this team, and I really hope that they reach their full potential on Monday. Yeah. As for what it was like on Memorial Day weekend back when we were there, it doesn't really feel real. I mean, you try to let everything sink in as best you can, but at the end of the day, that you have a job in mind. you're here because you're there to win a national championship. So while there's a part of you that's like, we're here because we're supposed to be here, it's really cool at the end of the day. My God, I mean, these guys are gonna be in Lincoln Financial. That's where we were in 2013, and in 2014 we were in the Ravens Stadium, and just being in those venues by themselves, it's overwhelming, and
Yeah.
it's such a cool experience, and it's something that I personally am so grateful for. So for these guys, as they're navigating this weekend, obviously try to let everything sink in as much as possible for truly how amazingly surreal it all is. But the job's not done yet, and I'm really hoping that this group is the one that takes home the fourth title for us. And I know that alumni across the country are going to be watching, and we're just so excited and proud of this team.
So I'm going to fire one more question that I didn't prepare you for ahead of time.
Love
and
it.
this is selfishly about setting up Lake Placid, right? So you and I know that your dad has been a big part of my connection to you. In addition to being able to see all your years at Duke and follow the team both directly and indirectly through your dad's pride for you and your teammates, we tend to see each other on a routine basis up in Lake Placid. So, through your eyes, what is this Gray Devils thing, this old guy thing, and how do we hand it off to your generation?
The Duke lacrosse experience never really truly ends. I think we all fell in love with lacrosse. We all fell in love with being on the Duke lacrosse team, and it's not a part of our lives that we want to forget. And it's something that, what a way to keep traditions alive than to have an event like Lake Placid, or whether it's the tournament out in Colorado, you name it, something that brings us all together once a year or twice a year, having the opportunity to have basically a reunion. It's something that I know a lot of our guys will be really excited for. I anticipate that there will be, a little bit of drop off as, people start to have kids and they're, very focused on their families. But being able to reconnect with the people that you shared such a special moment of your life with, it's just, I can't imagine anyone who's not going to be jumping with joy to be a part of that and to continue that legacy. Speaking for my father's behalf, the one and only Chris Maxmin, he lost touch with a lot of his lacrosse guys. He was in the Marine Corps. He was overseas for 6 years. And it wasn't until he was in his mid-30s that he picked up a lacrosse stick again. So for him, I mean, just seeing the look in his face whenever he gets to even just talking about Lake Placid, it's like a little kid on Christmas morning. And so I think as we get older, we all want to have those few moments that we really truly look forward to. And I know that my dad has that marked on his calendar every single year. And he's pushing 60 right now, and there's nothing wrong. Pushing 60 isn't old, but the fact that he is still willing to go out there and potentially rip both of his ACLs every single day that he's out there, and he's not the only one. This is something that everyone is throwing their body on the line to just be with the guys. And even if they can't play, they're still showing up because those relationships, those memories are just so important to them. At the end of the day, we all had an experience that was so unique and so special. And I know I've said this a couple times now, but it's a way that we are able to sort of honor the opportunity that we had to all be together. And it doesn't need to just be for 4 years. That bond lives on forever. And that's a great way of keeping it alive. And I'm sure plenty of us would be more than happy to keep the Gray Devil tradition going.
Well, Reid, I appreciate it. And I just want to dispel one myth here. Nobody's at risk whatsoever of ripping an ACL or anything. The older you get, the stronger you become, the better you are. Zero risk to playing in Lake Placid. Take it from me. If something were going to break, it'd be broken already. We're just riding this thing out. A few more games. I appreciate you. I appreciate the time that you've carved out to be a part of this. And let's go Duke this weekend.
Go Duke. Let's go for 4.